This is Jeff Green. Welcome to the June 2019 housing market update. Thank you for joining us. Let's jump right in and check out some statistics, and we'll get to our panel in just a moment. All right, so what's going on with our market? I'm still trying to figure that out. So let's take a look nationally. Well, here's a look at year over year, 18 versus 19 in terms of total home sales by month. And you can see that January, February, March were all down. April was even. May has not been released yet. So it'll be interesting to see where May and June come in relation to 2018. But clearly, the market nationally does not seem to be growing in terms of the number of homes sold. Point number one. Point number two, here's some info from Case-Shiller. Very respectable organization that pumps out a lot of really key analytics that a lot of us look at. Year over year price changes. You can see that things aren't necessarily rising all that fast in terms of price. Kind of flat, maybe on the downward spiral a little bit. Year over year inventory levels are up. You can see here in the blue area, 2019 is up a little bit. So that's good news, because one of the things that you'll hear if you've been following us on the housing market update here, our agents talk about there not being enough inventory. So that's good. That should hopefully balance things as the market cools. Mortgage rates. Yes, mortgage rates right now have been rising, but not by all that much historically, right? This is a nice chart to show us where things were as far as rates back in 2000, and this is going all the way through 2019. So you can see over the last 20 years, we're still pretty low. We're almost at the lowest it's been right now as it stands. So pretty good information there. Very affordable time. As wages continue to increase here in the U.S., mortgage rates continue to stay low. That means affordability is better and better for most people. So here's a forecast for growth, and most of this is just moderate, right? So new home sales, existing median price growth. You can see where things were, where things are, and where things are headed. So certainly new home sales are going to be up, and I think that's a no-brainer, right? Because builders have been getting the signal now for quite a long time that, hey, we need you to build more homes, but it takes time to bring them online, right? A lot of tricky planning boards out there that don't necessarily want to approve subdivisions. So, and it looks like, the projection for 19 is flat. I think realistically it's going to be less than what it was of 2018. I think we all should be prepared for that. And you start to see price cooling a little bit, the growth of it, but still price increases happening. So this I find interesting, not so sure I believe it or not, but there's a forecast of no recession in 2019 and 2020. GDP growth still to be at or above 2%, which is good news. I think that's probably likely to happen. Fed is less and less looking to raise rates, so I think that we should be okay on that front. We'll hear from PJ Keelan on that front in just a little bit. So let's drill down a little bit more locally. You can see here in Orange County, the units sold has been at or below 2018 in each month except for that of April. Pretty significant decrease in May. So, real estate markets don't usually turn very quickly. So we're seeing a consistent at or below where previous years were. So, we'll see where that goes locally. Average sales price, prices are still increasing here in Orange County. No doubt about that. And I think you always see a lag between units sold, which is this one, and average sales price, usually about a 6 to 8 month lag at least. So in other words, units sold will start to decrease and average sales price follows 6 to 8 months later. Sold to ask to sold ratio, this is the last asking price versus the sales price. Still very strong, which signals ultimately a seller's market. Hey, Melissa, your mic is open. Strong. Days on market, strong, right? It's down, it's low. That means things are moving real quick. Sussex County, south of the border in New Jersey. Same kind of picture, right? Kind of at or below the last year, maybe even 2 years in terms of productivity. I think even a little bit softer in Sussex County than you saw in Orange. Average price, still kind of a mixed bag here, right? The green line is 2019, so it's in the mix. Price hasn't really come skyrocketing in Sussex County on an average basis. Still a seller's market, though. I mean, look at, sellers aren't having to negotiate much off their asking prices, and things are selling fast. Days on market, far lower than what it was 5 years ago, 2014, far lower. So June actually happens to be National Homeownership Month. Woohoo, let's celebrate. In all seriousness, home ownership is a great thing. It's kind of the cornerstone of our economy in the United States. That's what we're saying here. A strong economy is really quintessential, and they go hand in hand, right? I mean, the last major downturn that we had was a result of the housing market. So increasing wages are good, right? That means affordability is within reach for a lot of people who want to buy home. Historically low mortgage rates, we talked about that, and increasing inventory levels. So all of those things are positives that we should remain optimistic about the housing market in general. And I do think that we're seeing a healthy slowdown of the market here. Percentage of Americans who see home ownership as a good investment. Still, a lot of people think that it's a good investment, and it should be. It should be 100% of people should feel that it's a good investment. But needless to say, you can see in the doldrums of the market, 2014, not many people thought it was great. But look at where we are just 5 years later in 2019. So what's the lesson there? Always be positive about home ownership. It's the #1 wealth building mechanism for any individual. And then here we go, right? America's choice for best long-term investment, real estate. Still, even more so than stocks, savings accounts, gold, so on and so forth. So a lot of things to be thankful about our housing market. A lot of very positive, strong factors. Mortgage purchase applications are up. This is good. This means that more and more people are looking to borrow, looking to make that move, looking to get leverage on their house. That's okay, as long as they can afford it, which we've talked about over the last few months. It's one of the key things I think that is going to hold this market from having a complete collapse is the fact that banks have been very responsible with their loans and applications over the last 10 years. Okay, so the next housing market update is slated for July 16th, although I'm going to be in Scotland, and I don't really know what my internet connection is going to be like there. So we may or may not give it a run on July 16th, but I'm hopeful that we will. So mark your calendars and make sure to be there. And a special thanks to our guys over at Realty, the better, smarter, faster real estate referral network for agents. If you're an agent, you should join. It's free. Check it out. Okay. I'm going to stop my share, and we're going to bring the panel in. Let's introduce everybody. I'm just going to introduce in the order of which I see you, left to right. We have Karen Gonen. Karen, welcome. Thanks for being here. She's from Green Team New Jersey Realty, Realtor Extraordinaire. PJ Keelan from Family First Funding. He's going to talk with us about the mortgage markets. Carol Buchanan from Green Team New York Realty, another Realtor Extraordinaire. Been in the business a long time. She's got some historical perspective for us today. And Tony Croish, also a sales associate with Green Team New York Realty and a Realtor Extraordinaire. Tony, thanks for being here with us.
Having me.
All right, so who wants to jump right in? We saw the numbers. We saw where everything went. What are you thinking?
Well, I think there's a lot more inventory on the market than there was before. I see a lot more coming on, and homes that are priced well and are presented well are selling very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you almost get the sense, Carol, right, that sellers have maybe been holding out to see how high this market would go.
Yeah.
And I think maybe now a lot of them are saying, all right, it's time to cash in the chips and move into, downsize or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? I think there's probably a lot of that going on this year.
Yep, it's a good market.
Yeah, it is a good market. Big opportunity for those service professionals who are in it. us and mortgage people.
Yep.
And I
So
think,
go ahead.
I think in our market, it's just a great time to buy. At the high end, buyers can pretty much get what they're looking for. And in the lower and middle tiers, there's a lot of movement, especially for first-time home buyers who can pretty much afford more because of the low interest rates.
Yeah. Yeah, you keyed on something there, Tony, the high end, right? There is a lot of inventory in the high end, and there's a lot of negotiation room there too, right? From what I can tell.
Correct.
I feel that in New Jersey, houses that are getting on the market now are actually being priced higher than they were before, and we still have takers. So that just tells us that there are lots of buyers out there, and owning a house is more affordable than it ever was, especially with the interest rates, especially with unemployment being so low. This is a great market to be in on both sides.
Yeah, I would have to echo that, because when you just like put it into perspective, right? And you think back to, Carol, you were in it back in 2000, 2002, 2005. You know, prices in our area have not risen to that level again. They're still not really there. So when you couple that with where interest rates are versus where they were then, Karen's point is spot on. It really is a great time historically from an affordability standpoint to buy.
I think that leads to a lot of people also being in the position where, you know, the cost to rent right now and what the rental market is slowly depleting. And, you know, it's probably a 10 to 20% difference for average for what you're getting, you know, on where that payment's going to come in to be able to afford. So.
Yeah, that's another good point too. I've been thinking about a lot lately is how often do you see the rental market super hot and the sale market super hot, right? I mean, that's just been our experience in this area. And maybe it's just our area because there's not a whole lot of rental units. But man, it's like red hot, but so is the housing market. So it's interesting. I think just more people are kind of coming off the shelf in general, right? Maybe there were a lot of younger people living at home because they couldn't quite afford something. Now they have a job, so they want to get out and get their own place. So it's putting a lot of pressure on available units.
What I'm also seeing, you know, especially from an area where we are, people looking at investment properties, you know, things for Airbnbs and bringing, you know, additional income. Obviously, we saw the investment slide earlier. People are still investing in real estate, and with how cheap interest rates are, they're able to add those things on that end.
So, Karen, we've spoken often about the REO situation down in Sussex County. Are the banks starting to unload a little bit more inventory now, or no?
No, they're not at all. I think for whatever reason, I actually found that quite a few REOs are being sold directly on websites and they're not even being listed. I had banks reaching out to me to help them out with their COs and closing permits. Listing was never made it to the MLS. So all I'm doing is just shuffling papers from one side to the other, but I'm not actually the selling agent or the listing agent. So, they're just trying to sell it without us for the most part.
Yeah. Well, hot markets allow, you know, sellers to be able to do that. When there's a plethora of buyers, you know, it's a little bit easier to sell a home. So they're entitled to be able to do that. All right. So PJ, where do you see just the overall economy? I mean, I know that mortgage bankers in general tend to watch the financial markets a lot closer than we do. What are you seeing out there? I mean, the stock market's been tepid at best for most of, 2019 here. Hasn't been many returns gotten out of the stock market. What are you thinking?
I mean, I think I'm surprised as how quickly rates have come back down to the point where they are right now. You know, we're looking at historically low rates for the last 2 to 3 years. And with a market being as strong as this, I didn't expect it to come down and balance out as quickly as it could. So, I think this is now giving those people that are more towards that higher end of that moderate, price point for homes, they're now able to potentially negotiate that where they're able to sell those properties where someone's able to go a little bit more. But I still think, the new home buyer, that millennial home buyer, they don't want these large, elaborate properties. They want something small, unique, where they could afford it. And they're thinking about the longevity and, the potential for what this property really could do for them.
Yeah, and I think that's why I see the high end struggling so badly is because, big homes that have big tax bills and big utility bills are not, desired by many of the younger generation.
And
so go ahead.
You see, people that are coming out these new constructions with high efficiency and stuff like that, but they're still priced so high compared to what they have to be in the cost to build them that it's still tough for people to afford those even on that.
Yeah, new construction is not necessarily a given. It's like you said, there's cost to acquire the land, to get the right to build, to do all the site work, install the utilities. I mean, it's no small task to be able to do it all,
And I think you're getting less for what you're paying for on the new construction end at this point.
Yeah. Hey, Carol, just let's talk historically. I mean, you've been in the business, not trying to date you or anything like that,
Yeah.
You've been in the business a long time and you've done a lot of new construction sales. So I mean, like when you think back over the course of your career, like how does this market compare to previous times where things have changed and shifted? Like where do you feel this one going right now?
Well, it seems to be higher priced. I mean, it surprises me with in Warwick especially, some of the new construction is on the higher end with higher taxes, but they are selling well. That particular area in Warwick is selling well. People seem to be comfortable. Years back, they would buy new construction, but they were very nervous, very, very cautious about buying. People nowadays don't seem to be so concerned. They're more relaxed about it. They're not afraid, and I guess they think they'll do whatever they have to do and they buy that house,
That's interesting.
And I think the lower interest rates, they're not turning away buyers even with the rising price of properties.
Right. I find them cautious, but not afraid.
Well, it's a good point, Tony, right? I mean, it's like, to me, it's like two things really matter, right? It's like the interest rate and the taxes.
Yeah.
Because the principal is going to pay down. You're not necessarily losing any money on that, but it's the taxes and the interest rate, and rates have been so low. And I think that that's a big part of, this housing market right now. And to PJ's point, they're coming down, they're really arguably coming down as the bond market strengthens, right? Because there's a lot of risk in the stock market. So investors are fleeing to the bond market, which makes it more affordable to get mortgages. Do I have that right, PJ?
I agree with you completely. I think borrowers are also in the position where they don't have to worry about locking in an interest rate immediately because of what the market is. I'm more often than not reaching out to borrowers with an improved interest rate and saying, hey, look, the market's improved. We're going to be able to give you this, because ultimately, if that's more cost effective for them, it's going to be easier for them to obviously close on that property and feel comfortable making that payment every month. But you made a great point about taxes. That needs to be the first conversation when anyone's looking, especially in the Sussex County and Orange County area, because there is such a difference. And have the ability, I see some people jumping over a border, whether that be New York, New Jersey, or Pennsylvania, potentially because of what these costs sometimes are with taxes.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, right? I mean, I don't feel like we've had a huge fallout from, the changes in the tax code as a result, what you can and cannot write off for property taxes. There was a lot of discussion about that on a national level as to what that was going to do to places like New York and New Jersey, which have really high property taxes. But I don't think we've seen a huge fallout, and we still have plenty of buyers ready to buy in our territories, at least, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the course of time and what, our states do about that. That's a whole nother discussion. But needless to say, yeah, I mean, it seems like, although the market is cooling and you can see it in the numbers, it's still very busy out there. It's still a robust market by far. Okay. Any other parting thoughts before we wrap it up here?
No, I think
No?
we're doing just fine.
All right. I'm going to serve coffee next time before the housing market update so that we get a little bit more energy out of our panelists. I think they're tired from running around with all the buyers out there. So hopefully you, whoever's watching this, enjoyed it. And we hope to see you next month in July. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye.